When there's a lack of boundaries with your in-laws or your parents as it relates to what you do with your kids or what you do within your marriage, it's no longer just a problem between what they're doing and not doing. It becomes a problem with what your husband is doing and what he isn't doing. You're in luck today because we're going to talk about how to talk to your husband about your in-laws or your parents and how to move forward from this cycle of having the same conversation over and over again and actually finding a resolve. So come on. Let's lean in. Maybe you're like me and my husband. When we were dating, we were serious about getting married, okay? We knew that we wanted to get some premarital counseling to be aware of all the things and come in hitting the ground running. So we went to this premarital group counseling type of thing. It was very fun, like class sort of deal. And they hit very specific topics within there. So we had these discussions about what we would do when things would happen. One of the topics was in-laws. So we had this awareness about what we would do if we had in-law issues and how we would communicate if we had in-law issues. But it's one thing to know about an issue coming, and it's another thing to actually experience it. And I feel like I talk to my clients all the time. Maybe even you have gone through this where you're like, yes, I know that practically we can tell them no. I know practically we can tell them we ain't doing that. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of things, when you set the boundary and the boundary is actually completely disregarded, or there's a lot of passive aggressiveness around the boundary, that's when it starts to get icky. Maybe it's things like when it comes to your parenting, you and your husband have gotten on the same page. These are the things that we're going to do, okay? But somehow, when the in-laws or the parents come over, there's this bit of well, it doesn't really matter that much. Oh, we're just going to let it slide. Or, we're just going to let them say that this is just the way they are. But within you, anytime there are conversations around your in-laws, or, hey, we have a holiday coming up and we have to go to the house, or, hey, this weekend they want to come over, or this thing is coming up, there is a roaring in your spirit, okay? And you feel this anxiety about those interactions with your parents. Here's why. Your body has this understanding that you're going to have to deny a part of your needs in order to make it through that interaction. So it's sending these alarms like, girl, get out of here. We're not going over there, because as soon as we go, these are the things that we're going to have to tell ourselves no. We're going to have to lie to ourselves. We're going to have to overstep a boundary that we have already established with the husband. So let's not do it. Well, a lot of times we hold those thoughts in, we bottle it up, keep it from our husband just to get through that uncomfortable interaction. So all the while when you're in the presence of your in-laws and they're asking you, well, why would you do that? And they really need to be doing this. And I don't understand why you're doing that. And well, this didn't happen in my day. All the little chatter that's happening in the background, these alarms like, girl. And what do? No. But over time, as you're stuffing down those things within you, you're also giving your husband the side eye. Like, I know you didn't put me in this conversation yet again. I know we are not in the same situation yet again. And don't get me wrong, I'm not just talking about being uncomfortable, because, our parents and in-laws, they will have different opinions about things that we don't have. But when you've been hurt by your parents, there is a certain feeling that you have when you go around them, almost as if you reverted back to the child version of yourself. And if you're not in contact with your parents, or you don't talk to them that much, but you're more involved with your in-laws, and the expectation for them might be, oh, I get another second chance at my parents, right? But you get that same feeling with them that you get with your parents, and it's like, dang, what gives? So I'm not just talking about the discomfort of disagreement and you can work through it, everything is fine. That is what happens in a healthy dynamic. I'm talking about an unhealthy dynamic where your opinions have been expressed, your boundaries have been set, and they have been overstepped. But here's the kicker. The problem that you have with your in-laws is not about your in-laws. It's actually a problem with your husband. I know. Let me tell you why. We cannot control what your parents or your in-laws do. We can't control what they say. We can't control how they say it, when they say it, none of that. The only thing that you have control over is you. And within a marriage context, the only thing you have control over is the culture of your marriage, what you will say, what you won't say. When your in-laws or parents do this, you won't or will do that. The issue is when you have set a boundary or had conversations with your husband about things that are happening with your parents or in-laws, and you're not seeing the fruit of that conversation in the presence of your in-laws or parents, that's the issue. Because you understand that they are who they are, right? And they're probably not going to change. But what you feel in those moments when you're in the presence of your in-laws and everything within your body is telling you, girl, get out of here, is you might be feeling a sense of betrayal from your husband, a lack of protection from your husband. Hey, man, you're supposed to have my back. Hey, we said that we wouldn't do X, Y, and Z. I know you just heard that comment that they made about our parenting. I know you just heard that comment they made about me. Where are you? Where's your voice? Where's the boundary? Remember? So this lack of protection, this lack of sense of oneness when it comes to things that are outside of your marriage is missing. So here's how to turn this around and actually have a productive conversation with your husband about your in-laws or your parents. So first, being able to identify like what it is that bothers you about the particular actions that your husband does or does not take whenever you're in a conflict with your in-laws or your parents. Does it bother you because you feel unheard, misunderstood, overstepped? Or does it bother you because when you voice your opinion about how you feel, your husband kind of dismisses it and he's like, nah, it's just who they are? What is the thing that bothers you about those interactions? How do you feel about it? And how does it relate to your husband and his response to it? And then it's about getting on the same page. Now, I'll call this the United One Planet. It has a lot to do with, yes, getting on the same page with, how you'll navigate those conversations, but also the behavioral change that you'll see. A lot of times when we're in these conversations, it stays there, right? It's like, no, babe, I get it. I understand. Yeah, that would make me upset too. Like, okay, what we gonna do? So being able to not only just identify what's happening, what you feel, your thoughts in that moment, but what are you actually going to do? How are you actually going to measure that you now feel secure and safe when you come into those interactions with your in-laws and your parents? Does this mean that y'all come up with a plan to be like, okay, we just want to go around them? Maybe that is your plan. If there is a lot of toxicity within those relationships with your in-laws or your parents, maybe just like, yeah, the best thing for our family at this juncture in our life is to have separation. I'm not against that. Maybe you're just in a place where it's like, okay, we can be around them, but within these confines, within these particular boundaries, right? That is something that you and your husband have to discuss and come up with on your own. But establishing this sort of unit, this oneness that God has called us to. In scripture, when it's talking about two are better than one, it's saying back to back, this person is looking at what's coming over here, this person is looking at what's coming over here, and together they're able to conquer and defeat what's coming at them. If you are allowing your anxiety about having those conversations and getting to the solution without feeling like you're nagging or without feeling like what you truly need and want to come out of the situation is too much, too rigid, or too needy, then you're not able to face back to your husband. Now you're facing toward each other and you're just talking, yapping, defense. Well, this isn't happening. You know how it goes, right? So identifying how you feel, why you feel it, and to come up with a behavioral plan, things that you can actually see change within those interactions with your parents and your in-laws is going to help you get to the bottom of this conflict. And you might be saying, Chasity, I've tried that. We've done all the talking we can do. I've tried to identify this and talk about this is what I like better or more. And when I tell you I understand, I understand. I've had a lot of my clients to say, I've done the talking, we've talked about the behavior change, and I'm not exactly seeing what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. Then at that point, what are you going to do? What is your behavioral change that you want to see? Again, you can't control anybody else, including your husband when it comes to his specific actions. But what are you going to do? What is your action that's going to make you have that buffer, feel a little bit more safe and secure, that doesn't cause you to resent your husband every time he mentions the family or there's a family event that you have to go to? What is your action? Pray about it. Think about it, journal about it, and decide. Don't just choose, this will be a good idea. I will feel more better, Decide, hey, this is what I'm going to do. This is not what I'm going to do when it comes to the in-laws and parents. It's something that we've circled around over and over. We're in the wilderness at this point. Just, I don't know what to do. I've decided this is what I'm going to do. This is not what I'm going to do when it comes to interacting with them. And let that be it. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. And after you've decided, have that conversation with your husband. Hey, I've been praying about this. I've been talking about this. I've been thinking about this. I heard a podcast about this. And this is what I've come to the conclusion with. Until this happens, this is where I'm going to be. When you have childhood experiences that have made you feel abandoned or rejected or left out or misunderstood, criticized, judged, all those things, and you enter into a marriage where your husband's parents might come in and maybe even add a little bit more on top of the hurt that might have existed before, it can be a lot. And you're okay to have a break, a breather, to set a well-rounded boundary. This is something that we talk more in depth on inside of my program Legacy, where I'm talking through my clients about having these conversations when they come up. Oh Lord, Easter's coming. Oh my gosh, 4th of July is coming, Christmas is coming, Thanksgiving, whatever the holiday or whatever the scenario that is happening. Okay, let me prep for this. Now let me do it. Now let's do a debrief, like having that accountability along the way, because let's just be honest, this is hard, especially if you're surrounded around, other couples who they have seemingly perfect in-law situations or perfect parent situations, or you're on Instagram and you're looking at their family dynamics, you're like, ooh, I wish I had that. Why don't I have that? But when you are in a room getting that accountability and that coaching to help you through these difficult conversations, it takes what you know and it turns it and flips it on its head to an identity change. Again, that behavioral change. What are you wanting to see happen? And see it through, follow it through. Even if you're scared and uncomfortable, raise your hand, ask a question, and that is what we do inside of Legacy. Your first step is taking the quiz below this video. This anxiety archetype is going to help you figure out how anxiety is showing up for you in your marriage and give you a little bit more insight about that anxiety about communicating to your husband as it relates to problems with your in-laws, or just setting the boundary with your in-laws or your husband in general. So go take the quiz, learn about your anxiety archetype, then you're going to get a training that goes even more in depth on how to fix issues like this and conflicts like this within anxiety within your marriage, so you feel a little bit more at ease. That inner child within you is like, okay, we at least have this going for us, even if it isn't a quote unquote perfect family dynamic. So head to the show notes, take the quiz, find out your anxiety archetype, and I'll see you in the next one.